Everybody, and welcome to Generally Speaking, the podcast that bridges the worlds of pop culture and personal development. I'm your host, Jennifer Snook. I am so happy to be here with you guys today. I hope everything has been going really well in your world. I wish I could tell you that it's been going great in mine, but honestly, the last couple of days have been brutal. I'm not getting into it right now, though, you guys, because I just don't want to get emotional. I have to go to work after this, and we're going to put this on pause, and I promise you, I will fill you in when I drop this weekend's pod. But in the meantime, there's a lot of other stuff to talk about. But before we get into it, you guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure you reach out and smash that subscribe button. I would appreciate it. You know what's funny? Every time I say I will appreciate it, it reminds me of my dad. My dad always said that I would appreciate it. So anyway, hi, Dad. He's dead, but you know, we talk. Anyway, you guys, there's some very interesting news coming out of Miami. You know Anna that has her own podcast that used to be a Miami housewife. Well, Anna recently came out and dropped some big news. She said that Alexia Nepola is funding Marisol's stay on The Housewives. She said that Marisol wasn't even supposed to come back after the reboot, but that Alexia really wanted her to, and so much so that she is supplementing Marisol's paycheck just to keep her on the show. She went on to say, if you pay attention, you'll notice that Marisol actually works like Alexia's lady in waiting. And I have to tell you, that this would kind of make sense. It would kind of give some context as to why Marisol is just constantly climbing up Marisol's ass. I mean, she says that the show did not want Marisol, but Alexia did. And honestly, I cannot wait to see what else comes out of this. Speaking of wanting, you guys, and staying with Miami, Adriana came out and made another public statement about Julia's statement that they had sex. Adriana wants to go on record and say that Julia was wrong to say that they had sex, because sex implies something more than heavy petting. So in Adriana's books, they didn't have sex. First, second base. And I mean, I don't know, could Julia have stolen third base and Adriana just doesn't want to cough it up? Probably. Speaking of former couples that are now on the rocks, Mercedes from Shaws of Sunset is officially divorcing Tommy. You remember Tommy. I mean, who can forget Tommy? Mercedes cited the all irreconcilable differences and asked for full custody of their kid. And then there's the whole Wendy and Eddie Osefo of it all, you guys. And I am telling you, she needs to stop talking, because honestly, every time people put out statements before something like this, they just end up looking worse in the end. It's just like Karen, I can't wait to have my day in court. Well, now Wendy is saying, get this. She says, and through it all, God remains faithful. Of course, God remains faithful. That's God's job. I'm not exactly sure what in the hell that has to do with her. I mean, God remains faithful. That's a given. Then she goes on to say, thank you for the outpouring of love, support, and prayers for myself, and most importantly, my family during this time. But here's the thought, Wendy. If you didn't want this time to happen, then you should have been the one thinking about that beforehand. And it seems like this statement has aligned with the fact that Bravo just came out and said that they are indeed going to show their episode, the Osefos episode of Housewife Swap that, you know, they've been planning on, because there was some chatter that they thought that that episode was going to get pulled. But here's the question. Why would Bravo pull it? It wouldn't make sense for Bravo to pull it. And I know that some people are saying that, oh, Bravo was rewarding the Osefos, but Bravo isn't rewarding the Osefos. This has nothing to do with the Osefos. This has everything to do with ratings. I mean, why wouldn't they show this episode? They know everyone's going to tune in. And by airing it, you're not rewarding them. Rewarding them would be giving them another show or allowing her to come back to Potomac next season. But that's not what's happening here. They already have a show in the can, and those people have already been paid. So the fact that Bravo is going to air it and get good ratings, that really just means they're going to recoup their costs. I mean, it would literally just make no sense for them not to air it. Bravo's not rewarding them. They're just being smart. Now, speaking of Potomac, you guys, the taglines are out. And before we get into this week's episode, we're going to go through them. So Gizelle says, when the nest is empty, it's time for naked, grown, and sexy. And then Wendy's line is, I put the high in higher education. But honestly, knowing what we know now, it should probably be, I put the high in hiring an attorney. Stacy says, some people believe the lies, but still I rise. And still I want you to fly away. The new girl Angel says, hell hath no fury like an angel scorned. Kiarna says, beauty is my business, but getting you together is my specialty. And then Tia says, you can only clutch pearls if you have them. And darling, I've got loads. And then Ashley Darby wraps it up with, this cherry blossom is ready for her second bloom. So the show opens and we are still deep in Stacy's delusion, trying to train her daughter Arabella to walk in her shoes to become a beauty queen. As if becoming like her mother is a good thing. And honestly, I just have to say at this point, I'm done with Stacy. I'm completely done with Stacy because she just feels too fake to me. She just feels completely inauthentic. I mean, honestly, what's real? Some part of a housewife has to feel authentic and real because otherwise they're just playing a part. And honestly, if they're only playing a part, I don't want any part of it. I mean, I need a housewife to be at least 60% authentic. I would like to say 70, but I feel like that's pushing it. I mean, if I really had my way, I'd like them to be about 80% authentic. And then that 20%, they can do with it what they want. Then I think you could really get to know a person, right? Then you could really like trust that that's who they are. But when you have somebody as shady as Stacy, you just can't connect. And then it's a meetup between Kiarna and the fraudster Wendy. Kiarna's basically using this opportunity to call Wendy out as a fake, and let's face it, she is. Kiarna tells her that who she is one minute isn't who she is the next. They go back and forth. Kiarna clearly has the upper hand. I mean, at one point, Wendy didn't even know how to respond and just started this fake, phony, maniacal laugh. Crazy. And then Wendy tries to make it out like Kiarna's being high maintenance and needs her hand held. But really, that's not the truth at all. Kiarna's just trying to hold her to account and calling her out for acting like a fake. Anyway, they end up getting nowhere. They flip each other off at the end and scene. Then we're in Angel's kitchen and she's talking with her husband and she's telling him how she just can't get over what went down at her party. She says, I'm just so taken back that Kiarna would say that. She says, because those really are fighting words. And he goes, yeah, a chin check is a chin check. Then we see Stacy sauntering up to lunch with Jessie, who was on the show last year. She's the one that traveled with her to Mia's event in Florida. Neither of them ended up seeing Mia. Do you remember that insanity? So the two of them sit down, they're bonding. Stacy apologizes for not being a good friend. You know, I'm normally, that's something I pride myself in. I show up for my friends and they show up for me. Oh, she's too much for me. And Mia, remember, there's another one that tried to play the show. I don't like the players that come in and try to play the show. I don't. And honestly, that's what they both tried to do, Mia and Stacy. Jessie catches Stacy up on her wedding plans, and then the two of them plan to get together pre-Preakness. And then they start going in on Gizelle because Stacy pulls out a picture and she says, oh, look, Gizelle's sitting here with this guy. This must be her boyfriend. She calls me a liar, but look at her. And I mean, nobody knows who this guy is at this point. But Stacy is so desperate to take the heat off of her that she'll shift the focus to anything. Tia and her very opinionated kids get into it about family matters. Tia says that she grew up under Nigerian principles and Nigerian practices, and she just towed that line her whole life. But she's raising these kids in America where she's teaching them to be opinionated and have a voice and express themselves. And she says it's working because they are very expressive and very opinionated. She says her and her husband have very different parenting styles. He talks a lot. She acts like a lunatic. And honestly, I get it. I mean, balance. Then Tia says, you know, the truth is I actually hate rude children. And then her and her husband start busting up because they know that that's exactly what they have. And then the girls meet up at a clothing store. Wendy walks in wearing the shortest skirt you've ever seen, and truthfully, it's probably been returned by now. And then Gizelle announces that she's taking everyone on a trip to Nevis. Because according to Gizelle, she is the only one that knows how to throw a party. And Angel says, well, what are you talking about? You didn't like my party? And she says, no. Then Angel asks Wendy how her chat with Kiarna went, and Wendy says, not well. So Wendy and Kiarna aren't cool. And then Gizelle looks at Angel and says, well, what about you and Kiarna? And then Angel says, well, listen, here's the truth. If she really said what you said she said, then we're going to have a problem. She says, because number one, I would never talk like that. And number two, that just didn't happen. And Gizelle says, well, she said it. And next time we're all together, that's going to be the first topic we address. And then we're over at Kiarna's house and Greg is on parade. And I mean, did you see him performing? Oh, do you want me to go down and get your mother? Sure, I'll be right back. I mean, then Stacy shows up. She's the first to arrive. And Kiarna says, listen, just because Stacy's 6'4" and I'm 5'3", I'm still being the bigger person here. Then Stacy starts questioning Greg, trying to get the lowdown on what's really going on between him and Kiarna. The other girls get there and Gizelle announces this Nevis trip to them. And Stacy says, oh, this is so exciting. Are we going to be roommates again? And Gizelle says, no. Then Wendy comes in, once again, looking like she's sauntering the runway. And I mean, honestly, it's too much. I mean, it's like embarrassing. Like, Wendy, does she see herself on television? Does she think it's a good look? I mean, everything's so over the top all the time. I mean, I'm sorry, but you just don't walk into a luncheon looking like you're trying to be Naomi Campbell on a runway. And then there was Angel and her boobs, who got there before she did. Once all the girls sit down, Gizelle says, so if the Preakness is her event, what are we doing here at your house? And Kiarna comes right back with, well, with Wendy, there are a lot of first, better, best. And everybody's like, first, better, what? And she says, yeah, with Wendy, she always wants to be first, better, or best. And I'm telling you, Kiarna is clocking her. Tick, tick, Wendy, tick, tick. And Wendy comes back with, I really don't understand why it is that you always want to have a problem with me. And then Gizelle chimes in and says, the thing that really gave me pause is that Angel told me that you went back to her the other day and told her that that didn't actually happen, that you didn't say chin check. And if that's true, then you're making me look like a liar, and I'm not. And then Kiarna says, okay, for the record, I said it. And I'm sorry, Angel. And Angel says, okay. And the rest of the girls are looking around very curiously because when they were shopping at that clothing store, Angel made it out like she was really going to have an issue if she did indeed say this. And now we know that she did indeed just say it because she just admitted it to her. So the girls are all waiting for this reaction that Angel promised, but there's no real reaction. It's just kind of an acceptance. But Wendy doesn't let it lie, and she says, that's not the energy you had at the store about this whole topic. Wendy says, at the store, you said that those were fighting words. And then Ashley pipes up and she says, we just need to understand what's changed. Because in front of the group last time, you were acting like a completely different person. And Angel says, well, yeah. That's because I was hurt. And then Angel turns to Wendy and says, I don't like your energy. She says, it's been 2 days. And before Angel can finish her sentence, Kiarna goes, and do you like that lady? Do you like that lady? And Angel says, well, honestly, no, I'm not feeling it today. And Stacy goes, you don't like her? Why? And Wendy says, yeah, so you don't like me, Angel? And Angel says, I don't like this conversation because you're basically calling me a fake. And then like a very emotionally mature person, Angel says, let's be real. When you find out things that hurt you and shock you, you react one way. And then after you have a couple days to think about it and calm down, the energy shifts. And she's absolutely right. And that's exactly why you should wait to respond and give yourself some time to calm down, right? But when she comes back at Wendy with that very emotionally mature response, Wendy goes, you just flipped the script on me right now. You just totally flipped the script. Yeah, because I'm not playing in the sandbox with your stupid rules. And then Wendy says it again. The way you flipped that script on me. That was just like, wow. And Angel says back, well, wow to you, Wendy. Then Greg, who's really trying to be the nice guy, comes in with stacks of money and starts handing them out. And I mean, yeah, they are going to the horse races, but I mean, I've gone to the horse races and don't you have to use your own money? Then it's time to go. They all load into the bus. And just as they're starting to have a good time, Gizelle slams the brake on the party and says, I want to toast Angel because she looks upset. And Angel looks at her and says, I wasn't upset. I was mad. But I'm fine now, and thank you for the toast. And I gotta say, I am here for the Angel. I really am. I'm here for Angel and her big boobies. To camera, Angel says, I really feel misunderstood, but the truth is, I know who I am. I trust who I am, and honestly, I'm not looking for anyone's validation. Then Kiarna says, listen, I know this isn't an easy space, and it's hard to build new friendships. And I know that I speak candidly, but it's coming from a place of love. I'm really not coming aggressively. And Stacy says, well, I don't know. A place of love? That's not how you came from me. And Kiarna says, well, you're different, Stacy. You're a different story. She says, actually, I was really looking forward to you coming into this group. Stacy says, you had events and you didn't invite me. And then it's time to leave. Everybody gets in the sprinter and everything starts off great. Then Kiarna has this little bit of spillage from her champagne. She's looking for something to clean it up with. And then Wendy starts giving Angel grief because she's not using her dress to clean up Kiarna. But Kiarna tells her to fuck right off. She says, fuck right off. Fuck right off, Wendy. And Gizelle is dying. I mean, Gizelle is just in the corner laughing her head off. And then Stacy says, I don't talk like that. And Kiarna says, yeah, you don't talk like that because you've still got your QVC voice on. And then Kiarna says very casually, I can't believe I'm sitting next to this whore. And Stacy says, oh, now I'm a whore? She says, girl, it's called a colloquialism. And then Stacy pipes up with, well, I didn't want to get chin checked. And you would be the person that knows how to do that. And when Ashley hears the comment, she gets all fired up. Ashley says, well, we need to stop because that is a low blow. And then to camera, she says, she's going to be the one that gets chin checked. And honestly, I'm really loving Kiarna and Angel. I think they are great additions to the show. Okay, you guys, in Salt Lake City, the show opens up with a phone call between Heather and Angie. Angie tells her that Mary's coming over for a chat, and then they dive into the Lisa of it all, and neither one of them are happy with the way she's been acting. And then we see Bronwyn and Todd going on an ice cream date. And not 30 seconds after she tells that bonehead that she hates it when he takes the maraschino cherry off of her sundae because it's her favorite part and she likes to save it to the end, he just fully takes the cherry, pops it in his mouth. It's like he didn't hear her at all. And I'm convinced that he doesn't hear her. He pretends like he's listening and shakes his head, but he's not really soaking up what she's saying. He's not trying to connect to anything. I mean, at this point, Todd is just once again coming across as just a horrible husband. I mean, they sit down and she's trying to tell him about what happened recently with Lisa and how he'd be really proud of her because at the latest event, Lisa was getting into it with everybody else, but Bronwyn says that I didn't do it. You'd be so proud of me. She says, I didn't get into the mud. But the truth is, this dude couldn't be more disinterested. And finally, at one point, she goes, what, do you not give a shit about anything I'm saying? And he goes, honestly, no, not at all. I mean, no, not at all. I mean, honestly, at this point, I'm going to need Bronwyn to stop trying to work him into every scene because we just don't see the redeeming qualities that she does. And quite frankly, I'm not even sure if she sees them at this point. I mean, honestly, she just needs to stop bringing his boring ass to the screen. Just let him stay home and be the curmudgeon that he was born to be. I mean, the truth is, Todd is just not good TV. A lot of people are really good TV. Todd, he's not one of them. And honestly, if he doesn't step up as a husband, I think Bronwyn should step away from that marriage for good. Because honestly, dude's a dick. Bottom line. And at the end of the day, Bronwyn's really just crying because Todd can't bring himself to lighten up just a little. Then Lisa's with John packing for the cruise. She tells him about the psychic she saw and how the psychic brought up communication issues and how what he said really resonated with her. And then to camera, Lisa says, you know, the trouble between me and John isn't just one thing. It's the blurred lines between business and family and relationship. And then Lisa starts getting choked up and she says, it's really hard because I'm tired and I run the whole house and I work. And I'm just wondering, does John work? I mean, is Lisa the only one that works? Doesn't John work too? Does John work, everybody? If you know what John does, put it in the comments. I really want to know. And then Lisa really starts crying and she says, it's really hard because I'm tired and I'm so upset. And she says, and there are nights when I just go into the car and cry to my dad because I can't talk to John. But then John comes back at her and says, listen, Lisa, the reason why we're on two different pages is just because you don't want to listen to anything I have to say. You don't listen and you're already in your head thinking you're right. And at this point, it is very clear that the girls aren't the only ones having an issue with Lisa. Lisa says, the other day when you said to me that I should listen to you just so that you know that what you say matters, she says, I really thought about that. You might be right. And then to camera with a very upset face, Lisa says, I don't know, but I don't always feel heard. And I tell John that he needs to treat me like glass because I know that I can be a bulldog, but my feelings can get hurt and you can shatter me. And I mean, at this point, Lisa shows her entire hand. I mean, isn't this just so 2 + 2? Lisa can be shattered. So everyone has to treat her like glass and walk on eggshells so Lisa's feelings don't get hurt. And you can't really have real conversations with Lisa because you just might touch her pain points without knowing. And she might have to deal with some very real feelings. And those feelings might hurt. And I mean, it is honestly just so textbook because the people with the deepest pains always do their best to try to control everything up here because they know they have so much bubbling up down here that they really try to keep a lid on things. So they really get hyper controlling so nobody can see all that bullshit that's bubbling underneath. And that is exactly why Lisa is so desperate to control the narrative. And honestly, same thing with Angie. Lisa says, we've been together for a long time and nothing's perfect. And then John comes out with the line of the night and says, well, everything that you do is perfect. It's just me. And I'm telling you, the look on John Barlow's face in that exact moment told 1,000 stories. And it is very clear that John Barlow is equally as miserable as Lisa, probably much more so. He's just a better actor. Then Mary shows up at Angie's with attitude for miles. Mary is still upset about what went down at the event. And Angie, of course, is so desperate to fix it. So she tries to get everything right. And I mean, she even meets Mary at the door with her supposed favorite drink, but Mary shoo-shoos it away, setting a very clear tone that she's going to be the one in charge of this meeting. They sit down and Angie says, listen, I want to start with, I'm sorry. I know you were trying to calm me down, but she was being a bully. You know that bully on the playground? And Mary says, like the one you're turning into? And Angie says, I wasn't bullying. I was just responding. She was just responding, everybody. Who else does that sound like? The one and only Teresa Giudice. That's her big line. I'm only ever responding. I don't do anything mean. I just respond. And Mary says, but you get so angry, Angie. You get so angry that you don't even hear people. I mean, we're in a sisterhood and I can't even get you to calm down. I mean, what am I there for? And how do you get so worked up that now it's affecting our friendship? Mary says, how do you get so worked up that I don't even exist? She says, you're over here breathing crazy. Angie says, I was upset, Mary. And Mary says, you were supposed to be my sister. And Angie says, and I am. And Mary says, no, you're not. Find another one. Mary tells Angie that she thinks she's in a dark place right now and she doesn't even know who she is. And not only that, but that she's being a little mean. She goes, mean? Yeah, like when you made fun of my fart. And then they flash back to what is quickly becoming Fartgate. And Mary says to her, you know, that was actually the dog. And she doesn't understand why she got the blame. But then they flash back to just a few days before where Mary said, oops, I farted. I don't know why, I have gas. But not today, Satan. Today, Mary says, it wasn't me, it was the dog. I would never smell like that, she says. I eat healthy. Mine don't come out like that. She tells Angie, you should know the difference between your dog's fart and my fart. She says, and if you farted, I wouldn't make fun of you. She says, you don't know if I've ever smelled your fart. I would never make fun of your fart, Angie. And you don't even know if I've ever smelled your fart. You don't know. Angie reaches out for her hand and she says, no, I'm not ready. And Angie says, well, I'm ready. And Mary says, listen, Angie, I pull back when I feel disrespected. And I have felt disrespected. And then to camera, Mary talks about the fact that she has had very few friends in her life and she only really accepts someone new in her life every 20 years. And she says that she takes friendship very seriously. And at this point, there are real tears. Angie says to her, I'm your person and you're mine. And then Mary hits her with the, well, I don't think I could live my life without you. What? But Angie loves it. And she gives her a heartfelt thank you. Thank you? Sounds like a lot of responsibility to me. You want to be Mary Cosby's only friend? No thanks. Honestly, sounds terrifying. But it doesn't end there. Angie looks at her in the eyes and says, I love you deeply and I will work on myself. And I would just like to say, yes, Angie, work on yourself because you definitely need to work on yourself. But you don't work on yourself to accommodate Mary Cosby's neuroses. You don't work on yourself to keep her happy. She's got her own shit she's got to work on. You do you for you, she'll do her for her, and then you guys will come back and be healthier for each other. I'm telling you, almost everybody on this show has such deep, unhealed wounds, and all of that unprocessed pain makes them all so incredibly hypersensitive. Then Angie pulls her in for a big hug. Mary resists for a second, but after a second, she melts right into Angie and she starts clinging onto her like a koala bear. Then Heather and Lisa meet up to do some shopping for their big cruise with Captain Jason. Lisa is super excited until Heather tells her that she can't bring glam. And we all know that Lisa brings glam wherever she goes. Tells her to relax, that she can have Whitney do her makeup and have Angie do her hair. Lisa says, no, thank you. And Heather says, what's wrong? You don't trust her with your hair? And she says, I don't trust her with anything. And Heather says, well, she's coming. And then Lisa, who can't not be a bitch, says, well, that's really nice for Angie. Because she's never had a luxury trip. She's never been on a yacht. So, that'll be really cool for her. And Heather says, come on, Lisa. I'm not going to sit here and let you haze Angie like that. And Lisa says, well, I'm sick of her attacks. And honestly, I think she gets high off it. And Heather says, I don't think she gets high off of it at all. She was crying. Lisa goes, crying? What was she crying for? Because she's such a mean bitch? And Heather comes back with, listen, if you're going to call her a mean bitch, then that means you're a mean bitch. And Lisa says, oh, really? Well, what did I do bad? She's the one that started talking about my kids' products. I'm just sick of her. She just keeps going lower and lower. And I'm just tired of her digs. And Heather says, well, honestly, I think she's tired of your digs too. Lisa says, I didn't dig at her. And Heather says, oh, come on, Lisa, be real. Everything that you're saying that she does to you, you do to her. Come on, Lisa, what about Soup Man? And Lisa says, Soup Man? You mean Suit Man? And in all honesty, soup, suit, who cares? And then Heather pushes the subject and says, well, who is it? Who are you talking about? Soup, suit, who's the dude? And Lisa basically admits that she just threw that out there just to hit back at her. And then the two of them just go back and forth with Lisa blaming Angie and Bronwyn and Heather trying to tell her that she's doing exactly the same thing. And then Heather says, listen, Lisa, I think the reason that no one rides hard for you is because they've all been burned by you. And honestly, you've gone low for every one of them. And then Lisa says, well, maybe I just shouldn't be going on this trip. And Heather says, oh, come on, you're going on the trip. And Heather says, and I'm serious. We have a really dark past and we need to be able to talk about it. And then Lisa gets all choked up again. She puts on her sunglasses and walks away. But Heather gives chase. Heather says to her, listen, we have a history, and you cannot expect me to sit here and let you take digs at Angie when you are doing exactly the same thing. Heather says, with what you guys are doing, there's not going to be an end point. Then Lisa says to camera, is Heather serious? Is she blind and deaf? Because clearly she doesn't see all the times that everyone comes for me. And once again, here's Lisa saying that she only says mean stuff when people come for her because she's defending herself. And then Lisa says to camera, do you know how much stuff I put up with from Heather? Do you? I mean, I'm glad I could give her book a title. Heather says to her, I think everyone feels the same way that, you're a bit of a bully. And Lisa says, well, I don't think so. And I'm tired of being labeled that way. And Heather says, well, Lisa, the truth is you're a risky friend. And until you really clear this up or change, it's never going to go away. Then we're with Brittany at a coffee shop and she's meeting up with her somewhat estranged daughter. Brittany recalls a story to her that she thought she would remember, but she didn't. And honestly, the tension between these two is sad and palpable. Brittany says that she felt so guilty about divorcing the first time that she went ahead and got married right away, but that she got so busy proving to the new guy that she could be the perfect wife that she was neglecting the needs of her kids. So then they felt neglected and ended up moving in with their dad. Then the daughter says, do you remember the last time we did this? The last time we tried to meet up? I had a 30-minute break, so I went over to your house, she says, and I wasn't even there for like 2 minutes before Jared shows up. And then the two of you just started making out and kept making out and didn't look at me a single time. And then she says, and I know there's not a man here now, which is why I have your full attention. And I appreciate that, but I want you to want to spend time with me over everyone. I mean, especially someone that you're so wishy-washy with. And then Brittany says, well, the reason I'm always with guys is just because you guys aren't around. And the daughter comes back with, whoa, don't put that on us. Then the daughter to camera says, my mom in the first 12 years of my life was so present. She was at everything. She was at every play. She was at every recital. She was at every sports event. She was at everything. And then when I turned 12, she got remarried and everything changed. She said it was like a switch flipped. And then Brittany starts crying and she says, I don't know how to make it better. And I'm sorry. I don't know why I did that. And then the daughter very wisely says, well, I think you need to get down to the root of why you did choose a man over me. Brittany says, I'm so sorry. You're my precious baby. And her daughter responds with, that you know nothing about. Then Heather and Meredith meet up for a hike in heels because Meredith can walk better that way because her legs are trained. Heather tells her about her meetup with Lisa and how things didn't go over too well. And she goes on to tell Meredith that she's just figuring out how Lisa really works. She says Lisa has a very particular way of manipulating people. She goes and finds out their darkest, dirtiest secrets and tries to use them against them. And then Heather asks Meredith why she chose to believe Lisa over Angie. And Meredith says that it's because even though Lisa and her had an issue, she apologized profusely. And Heather says, yeah, I remember. But the only reason why she apologized is because she got caught red-handed. The only reason she owned it is because she didn't have a choice. And then she says, and she got caught red-handed the other night at that party. And I'm just not understanding why she couldn't cough up to that. And Heather tells Meredith that she definitely believes Angie. And Meredith says, well, sorry, I don't have a good track record with her, and I believe Lisa. Then Mary and Angie go over to Whitney's house. When they sit down, Whitney tells them that they really need to work on their preference sheets for the cruise. And I mean, you can't pass that opportunity up. I mean, aren't the preference sheets the best part? Mary, of course, wants her 2003 Dom Perignon. She wants yogurt parfaits for breakfast, lots of blueberries and organic only, Egyptian cotton sheets, and tea over coffee, always. Then Angie says, speaking of tea, did you guys hear about those allegations that are being leveled against Bronwyn? And then we cut to Bronwyn walking into a bar at a social club to meet up with Todd. Bronwyn sits down. It's all very tense. She says, did you see my texts? And he says, yep. Then Bronwyn says to camera, look, there are two things going on here. There are mistakes I made in college, some dumb things I did 20 years ago. She says, I got an eviction notice when I left BYU. And they're saying that there are current crimes, identity theft, grand theft, fraud. But she says that it wasn't recent and that it happened over 10 years ago. She says that the case got dismissed and then sealed, and so she's really not allowed to talk about it. But my question is, if it's sealed, then how would anyone know this information? Then Todd says, look, these bullshit headlines in the press affect all of us. professionally and personally. And then Bronwyn assumes her usual position with Todd and says, listen, I'm sorry. I know this could be an issue for you. Is it going to be a problem at work? And he says, of course it is. She tells him that she knows that her name next to any of these words reflect poorly on him. And she knows that he needs to be seen as a man that's trustworthy and beyond reproach. She says, I know, Todd. I get it. I get it. And then Bronwyn says, and separate to that, I saw your text saying that you don't think I should go on this trip. And Todd says, yeah, it's really unclear to me why you'd want to travel for 18 hours to go spend time with these people. People who have continually lied about you, lied about me, lied about Gwen. Todd says, I struggled to understand your why. He says, I wouldn't piss on Lisa if her brain was on fire. And then Bronwyn says, well, based on our past, there is a great likelihood that she's the one that started these rumors. And if she didn't start them, she's perpetuating them. And then Bronwyn says to camera, I really wanted to be done fighting with Lisa. But the fact that she's actually doing this concurrent to apologizing to me and acting like she wants to move forward is pretty devious. Todd says, well, I wouldn't go. Bronwyn says, what are you worried about? And he says, a tiger doesn't change its stripes. And Lisa's not going to change. And I just don't understand why you always want to get in the gutter with her. Because when you get in the gutter with Lisa, all you're doing is mucking around with slime. And then he ends their conversation with, if you decide to go, okay, you're a big girl, you're a grown woman, you can make your own decisions. But if you decide to go, don't come home complaining that you and Lisa got into a fight. Because I'm already assuming that that's what's going to happen. And if you choose to go, that's what you're setting yourself up for. And Todd says, it's on you. It's really on you. And that was it. But I'm telling you, this was quite an episode. We saw a lot this episode. We got a lot out of Lisa Barlow that we have never seen before. And that scene between her and John, when we saw that expression on his face, heavy. And as for Bronwyn, you guys, I'm telling you, I think that she was a really rebellious Mormon kid. And I think that rebellious Mormon kid got into a little trouble in her early adulthood. And the younger version of Bronwyn is exactly why she tries so hard to prove that she is Bronwyn Newport. I mean, do you remember how she presented herself when she first showed up on the scene? I think that that has become the crutch of Bronwyn's existence. I think proving that she's not who she used to be is what drives Bronwyn. All in an attempt to prove to the world and herself that she's not still that person. And the previews for next week, you guys, look great. I mean, but how can they not look great when Captain Jason's involved? I mean, honestly, the dude's a peach and he's easy on the eyes. All right, everybody, that about does it for this episode of Generally Speaking. Thank you so much for being here. If you've been watching on YouTube, please make sure you reach out and smash that subscribe button. I would appreciate it. If you've been listening on your favorite streaming platform, please make sure you give us a 5-star rating. Leave us a comment. We would love that. If you'd like to collaborate or have a question you'd like answered on the pod, you can reach me at jennifer@jennifersnook.com. And if you'd like to follow me on socials, you can find me on TikTok at This Is Generally Speaking or on Instagram at @TheJenniferSnook. And if you'd like to get your hands on some of this adorable Generally Speaking merch, I will leave the link down below. All right, everybody, I have loved spending this time with you. Thank you so much for being here. And until we're together again, everybody, stay rooted in love. We'll see you next time.